95% of people are in a JOB scenario where it's active income, but only 5% of the wealth really lives there. Behind every entrepreneur is a bad manager. So every entrepreneur was kind of stirred up by this horrible experience in their job. One way you can get rich in a job is you can shift jobs. That's the fastest way to increase your income in a job, is just to change jobs. Go for a higher paying job fast, or ask for a pay rise. If you have Wi-Fi and a phone and you don't have extra income, it just means you're using this as a distraction and not for income production. Saving money works, investing money works, and making extra money works. But what we didn't do is change it once it started working. I'm Lloyd James Ross, seven-figure investor and entrepreneur, and I've helped thousands of business owners and professionals turn financial stress into success. If you're stuck in old money habits, overwhelmed by investing, or unsure where to start, this is for you. I'll give you the mindset and strategies to take control, grow your wealth, and achieve financial freedom. It's time to make your money work for you. Can you get rich on a 9-to-5 job? That's the episode today I'm talking about. It's very interesting because most people, in fact, 95% of people are in a JOB scenario where it's active income, but only 5% of the wealth really lives there. Whereas on the other side, 5% of people live in the world of leveraged income where 95% of the wealth lives. So most people are going to be in some sort of job. And the question does arise, can I still get rich? Well, let's define quickly rich. Does it mean just more money, or does it mean money and time? And does it mean fulfillment? So you could have lots of money, but you're not unfulfilled in your job. You have no time for your family or anything else. And so you've just got monetary richness. You just have money. And I don't think that is a rich life either. So if you think on the other side, if you got fulfillment from what you do, you have to do something and then make money and then have time, that's a rich life. And so can you do that on a job? If you like your job, the answer is yes. But if you dislike your job, you hate your boss, you can't stand going to work, you clock watch, you can't stand Mondays, you have a sick feeling in your stomach on the way to work every day, then no amount of what I'm going to tell you is going to make you happy. Fact. Even if you got more money, you're still going to be rich, right? And then I know part of you thinks, well, if I get enough money, I can leave my job. And that's true. So is the objective to get rich to leave your job? And if it is, then here's how I did it personally. So I'm going to impart to you, I'm going to answer this question of this episode in this story, okay? In a very short story. Because when I was 22, I was in Sydney, unemployed. I was looking for a job. I'd just been admitted to the Supreme Court as a lawyer, and I was in Sydney, and I was interviewing for Macquarie Bank and other banks and looking for an investment, sort of a beginning investment role, some sort of analyst role, whatever it might be, anything at that point in the banking sector. And what's interesting is that at that time, that's the same year that Bear Stearns collapsed and went broke effectively and was bought out by, I think JP Morgan bought them. And then Lehman Brothers went broke. One of the oldest banks in Wall Street went broke. So here I am trying to find a banking role, and the entire banking industry is just on its head. So wasn't having much success. I got a job in Abu Dhabi actually on the Formula One Grand Prix circuit project called Yas Island as a assistant development manager. So I moved into the real estate sector because over there it was booming, right? So I was just moving to where the opportunities were. And so I got into this job scenario where I was, capped income. I was commuting an hour and a half to work one way, and I was commuting an hour and a half to work the other way. And it was just like day in, day out. I was not able to increase my income. And I was working, I had this really good boss. He's such a great guy. Big shout out to Matt. He's awesome. And lucky I had him to make it palatable, to make it effective and good. But beyond that, it was difficult to work with some people because of cultural differences. It was tricky, right? And I was also working in a sector that I just loathe. I hate construction. I hate it. My craftsmanship is on the very bottom of my spiritual gifts. I don't even do handiwork well. So I wasn't fulfilled by the job, but I was also capped income. I was also So a few things I dislike. I dislike commuting. If people say to me, Lloyd, are you allergic to anything? I said, yes. And they say, what? I said, commuting. So I hate commuting. I hate it. In fact, I've designed my entire life to not commute. So I hate commuting. I dislike construction, and I didn't really like being told what to do, especially by people I didn't think who were very clever. So if you look at all those things, what was stirring inside me was a desire to get rich from the job, to get out of the job, if you think about it, right? So if I found myself in a different job, maybe if it was less commute, if it was something I like to do and potentially work with good people, maybe I would have stayed in a job. Yes. But behind every entrepreneur is a bad manager, right? So every entrepreneur was kind of stirred up by this horrible experience in their job. Now, for me, I had a good personal manager, but beyond that, it was like the company's kind of like it was in disarray. And I hated commuting, So I had all these reasons to want to do entrepreneurship, okay? And I talk about it in this book, Become Time Rich, exactly what was happening with me at that time. And I read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week on the way to work, audiobook, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And what's cool about that, just as a side note, we outsold the 4-Hour Work Week with our Become Time Rich book, which is kind of fun. All those years later, right? So anyway, little plug there, but go Tim, love him. How was I going to get rich out of this job? This is before I left, because I wanted to get rich too in a job, okay? The first thing I did was reduce my expenses. Like, there's no amount of money you can make that will allow you to continue to spend your entire paycheck and get rich. You just can't do it. So it doesn't matter how much money you're making. If you spend all of your income every single month or every single week, you are never going to build wealth. Fact, you will not get rich. So the very first thing I did was cut my costs. I drove a Toyota Yaris. I rented it, didn't even buy a car. I rented 7 of them over the 5-year period. I just rented them all into the ground, gave them back, got a new one. So I rented a Toyota Yaris, and I used to I remember pick up, before I got married to Alicia, I was dating. I'd pick up a girl and go on a date in a flipping Toyota Yaris. It was like emasculate. It's terrible. But I was on a wealth mission, right? Didn't care what people thought about me. Toyota Yaris, dropped my cost of my car. We rented out 3 of our rooms in our apartment to 2 of my buddies, and then we rented out the media room to someone to part-time. So we started to rent out the rooms, okay? So that was reducing our rental cost. Then I wouldn't go out. I wouldn't go on holidays. I hunkered down and I cut my credit cards up. I shifted where we were living. So I looked at ways to reduce the costs. So if you're in a job now, the very first thing you can do to get rich is to cut your costs. I've done so many episodes on this show on how to do that. I'm not going to delve into it too much. Look at your bank statements, cut out things you think you're entitled to. That's the first step, okay? Now, what happens if you do that is, voila, you'll find extra money in your account at the end of the month, which is what you need to start getting ahead. The second step you do is you can do this now. You do have to put your money to work. You do, because if you don't, inflation will wipe away the value of your money, okay? So you put it to work by buying assets. Now, back in 1994, when Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he explained cutting costs but putting the money to work in real estate was the way he did it. That's back when real estate was like the price of a cup of coffee. It's different now because rates aren't at 17%. So real estate's way more expensive. So it's not like you can just steer $500 into a block of land, right? So you take your money at the end of the month and you start investing it. The most effective way to do it is set up a micro investing app and put it into a simple index fund and dollar cost average into it. If you're in Australia, it's Raise or something like that, or Spaceship or something. There's a couple out there. It's Moneybox in the UK. It's Acorns in America. That's so simple. It's automated. It goes in there. So you're not just saving, you're saving and investing on automation at the same time. And that's the second step you can take. Because as you start to do that, you'll start to see your money, a very small amount of it will start working for you. Like I had a student the other day we have an education program. It's in this book, Money Buys Happiness. It's called the 5 Steps to Millions. It's my main coaching program. So some of you have put in the actual comments as well, Lloyd, do you do coaching and mentoring stuff? And we do. But you have to buy that book, Money Buys Happiness, to actually get access to the team to be able to learn more about it, okay? Because we don't want to work with just everybody. We go through the steps. Like, so in this book, we go through the steps and we implement them and action them, yeah? With hundreds of students we have. And this one student, she said, Lloyd, I got paid my very first dividend. It was like 5 cents. And it's so cool when that happens because if you can do 5 cents, you can do $5. If you can do $5, you can do 50. If you can do 50, you can do 500. If you can do 500, you can do 5,000. So it's not, getting wealthy is not one big move. It's a series of very small ones over time, okay? So if you can cut your costs, create the extra free cash flow each month, and invest it and begin that process and behavior of investing, even if your dividend is very small, even if the growth rate is very small to start with, it's the habit of doing it that matters most, okay? Just quickly, if you're ready to take control of your finances but feel stuck on where to start, I have a solution. My book, Money Buys Happiness, simplifies investing and wealth building with practical steps to help you achieve financial peace. Get your copy via the link in the show notes and let's get your money working for you. Now back to the episode. I decided when I started saving money, back when I was in Dubai, I actually engaged a financial advisor before I started educating myself financially. And then he put me in things I didn't know, and then I lost some money. It was just terrible, right? So again, I wanted to self-educate, which is why I encourage it, which is why I do this show. And then I started to learn about Warren Buffett. I started to learn about shares. So I would take my money, I'd cut my costs, driving my Toyota Yaris, right? Eating from home, et cetera, and I'd create the money and then I'd invest it in shares. And the very first shares I bought were in Westpac Bank because it was paying a 6% fully franked dividend, meaning I wasn't going to get taxed on it, although I was living overseas in I was a non-tax resident at the time. I remember it paid me my first $90 dividend check. And I was like, that's the path for me. So I knew I was going to take some money and invest it, yeah? And my whole objective was to actually have a portfolio of $1 million because I knew $1 million would pay me $50,000 a year in almost tax-free income with imputation credits and franking credits, okay, from the dividends. So I knew my objective was, well, if I can just keep my costs low in my job, stay there and just invest in shares, then over time, as that compounded to $1 million, I'd have enough passive income to walk out of there. It's like, yes. And then I realized it was going to take a long time. I was like, oh, I can't stay in this job forever. So whilst I was doing those 2 steps, and by the way, I talk about this exact 3-step formula in that book, Money Grows on Trees. Anyway, these are just like a story of what I've done to do what I've done to build wealth and have financial independence. So when I realized it was going to take a long time to save and just invest my way to wealth, I quickly realized I needed to amplify my income, because if you're in a 9-to-5 job, you would have experienced, and I did this for, the 4 or 5 years I was in Dubai, I only ever really got a pay reduction. They were retrenching everyone. There's a huge redundancy that happened over a period of time, like massive. We went from like the number 1 developer in the world was $18 billion in projects under management, and it just got absolutely destroyed by the GFC. So there's a lot of redundancies. So we got a pay reduction. That's all I experienced. In my job, all I ever experienced was a pay reduction. So I was like, well, this is not going to work. How am I going to amplify my share portfolio? I can only save so much. So if I was making, say, 70 grand a year or 80 grand a year, I could only save 20. So I was like, how am I going to do this faster? Which is when the penny drops. So first step, cut costs and save. Second step, invest and put your money to work in assets. Okay. Shares is the one I chose. And the third step is, of course, you've got to look for ways to amplify your income. You have to. So I started to look at different ways. A buddy of mine started like an online directory called Holiday Vouchers, where we're going to sell vouchers to like all the entertainment precincts in Dubai. But it just never got off the ground because we didn't have the skills. Okay. But I was searching and searching. When I repatriated back to Australia and got into a different job, ironically in property, I had saved, I'd invested, we had a share portfolio growing, still had a job, I was getting paid a bit more. So one way you can get rich in a job is you can shift jobs. That's the fastest way to increase your income in a job, is just to change jobs. Go for a higher paying job fast, or ask for a pay rise. Unfortunately, I got nil when I was in my job in Dubai. So I had to shift and move to a higher paying job in property sales. So I was doing that, I was earning more, but I still had to commute, still had to work, So I was like, what else am I going to do? And that's when I started my very first side hustle online was network marketing. And it was just perfect because I could run it from my phone. It only cost Alicia, who's my amazing wife, she actually was the one that started through my sister, and she enrolled me. So we started together, and it's something that I can run from my phone. And it was only like $500 each to start. So I was like, okay, well, I could do this part-time. So in between appointments at work, in the car each day, when I pick Alicia up and drop her back, I would work on this side hustle in network marketing. Why I liked it is because the products were already in place. Social media was available. I could just run it for free I've already had Wi-Fi. And if you have Wi-Fi and a phone and you don't have extra income, it just means you're using this as a distraction and not for income production. That's all that means. Just quickly, if you're ready to take control of your finances but feel stuck on where to start, I have a solution. My book, Money Buys Happiness, simplifies investing and wealth building with practical steps to help you achieve financial peace. Get your copy via the link in the show notes and let's get your money working for you. Now back to the episode. So I decided that I was going to use social media to make money. And you can decide that too today. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to do this because people were making money in this area. There was already people that are proven. It was a proven blueprint. It was just perfect. There was no financial risk. I was like, this is great. I mean, if I suck at this, which I did, nothing bad could happen. I didn't have to mortgage my house. Didn't have to borrow money. Didn't have to, nothing. I just could start. And we started making extra cash flow each week, right? The upside was if we were good at it, we would generate a ton of income. And we did. While we were in our jobs, saving money, and while we were then investing in shares, we then took our side hustle and we got it to a point that was producing an extra $180,000 a year in income. Fact. I know, it's ridiculous. Thousands a week. Far out. And Alicia was still in a paralegal job, and I was still in my property gig, right? So all this money, the extra money we were making, guess where we put it? Yes, we invested it into a share portfolio. So if you think about this whole process I'm going through of how to get rich in your job, is really 3 stages. One is to cut your costs and save some money. Second is to take the free cash flow and start investing it into assets. Get that habit going. Just begin, right? And the third step is to find unique ways to leverage what you have to make extra money. Now, that could be changing jobs. It could be asking for a pay rise. It could be doing a side hustle. It could be working weekends. It could be buying a small business. It could be all sorts of different things, okay? So that third step of amplifying your income, because don't forget, I was still in my job when we were making the 180K a year. Like, you understand, we had 3 incomes. We had income from our jobs. Alicia had an income. I had an income. We had 2 incomes there. We had an income from our dividends from our shares. It was paying us about 30 grand a year in income. It was amazing. And then we had 180K from our side hustle. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 incomes and no debt. Make sense? So, in fact, when we drove the car in today, it's over there. Guys, they lifted the thing up and I just drove the car in. We made a commitment when we did this side hustle that we would buy these number plates that are on the car, and we would only put them on a car that we bought from the money we made when we made $1 million in that side hustle. And that's what we did. And that's why people ask me about the number plates. That's the story behind it. So we had to create these kind of like rules and goals as to what we would do there. Notice the pattern. We didn't jump out of a job fully into investing or trading. Nope. We didn't jump out of a job fully into a side hustle. Nope. We stayed in the job. We invested at the same time. We stayed out of debt. And we improved and increased our income by working more. I know. Novel concept, isn't it? It didn't just appear. We were working evenings, lunchtimes, weekends. In fact, the other day, sadly, I went to a funeral and I had to go past where my old office was when I was in property with my dad. And I went past this concrete wall, and it was down from where our office was. And I said to Alicia, I haven't been here for years. And I said, that's the wall that I used to sit on. I used to come down from an appointment from a property client, walk downstairs, sit on that wall and make calls and take calls to enroll people in our network marketing business. And so I was up and down for like years. So this system of 3 incomes, or whatever it might be, is your job income, your investment income and dividends, and your side hustle income, the 3 income plan, right? Is finding what works for all those things, because they all work. Saving money works, investing money works, and making extra money works from a side hustle. They all work, yeah? But what we didn't do is change it once it started working. And that's the trick. It's to find a system that's working like that, and once it starts working, don't change it. And what I mean by that is we left our jobs, but our core business, we still save money. We still invest in shares, and we still look for opportunities outside our core income. We still do those 3 things. Year in, year out. Year in, year out. For the last 11 and a half years, Alicia and I have been playing that exact wealth building game, okay? Now, had we have stayed in our jobs, that still would have worked. It still would have worked pretty bloody good. I only wanted to leave because I had a desire to build something bigger. You may not want that. Totally fine. You can stay in your job as long as you manage your costs, invest your money inside and outside your superannuation, etc., and you're sensible and avoid debt and look for unique ways to build a second income. I don't see how you can't get rich, truly. I just don't, you will. But that's not what people do. What do? They do the opposite. They spend all their money. They don't save any. They don't invest in assets at all because they don't invest in education. They don't take any action. And then they don't look for unique ways to make money because they care about what people think. So they don't do any. So of course they stay broke. where, if Maxi Bond goes up in price, it really hurts them, right? So if you're feeling like you need to get ahead, that's the 3-step plan to get ahead while you're in your job, all right? So can you get rich in a job? Yes. How do I know? Because we did it. I'm not just spurting theory. That's how we actually did it, all right? So if you're someone who is in a job and you're wanting to know what to do, they're the 3 steps, all right? Hope it makes sense. If you want to know more about the details of that, go check out the books, right? I think we put the links in the description. What are the best 9-to-5 jobs to get rich? So we have to look at I feel the ability to scale your income beyond your time or have an uncapped income in a type of job is important. And the only way you can do that is in a sales job. Or if you have a job and you own equity in the company, because your income can scale beyond your time. So either take equity in the company that you're working with, do a deal and work there and get a wage, or be in a sales job. So for me personally, when I left the Dubai job, I went into sales and real estate and my income did go up. Okay, so it's a harder skill. So if you increase your skills, you can increase your income. So I would say anything in sales is where I would position myself. If I had to work somewhere today, where would I work? It's more important who you work for than what you work doing. So what I would do is I'd find an area that I loved and I would find someone who's a great entrepreneur, a great leader, a great mentor, and I would work for them. That's what I would do. And I don't want to tell you specifically what industry because we're all different. So I would find what I'm aligned to, what I like to do, and then find a business that's run by a great leader, great mentor, and like be useful and reliable to them. Work your ass off to them, be available, 7 days, like go for it and be their number one person because it's how you get mentored that matters the most. Can you have too many income streams? You can if the income streams require your time. So if you spread your butter too thin to get too many going at once, absolutely it's a problem. It can wreck you. You can spread your butter too thin across too many opportunities to develop too many income streams. But the best way to develop multiple income streams is to develop one at a time. And the ones that you develop should be a flywheel off the first one. So build the first, flywheel to the second, and do it with partnerships. That's what I've done. I talk about it in Become Time Rich. Partnerships with people who are doing a lot of the work with you so it doesn't take all your time. And leverage systems and other people to do a lot of the work so that you're developing the income, but you're sharing it so that you're developing 1 income, 2 income, 3 income, but it's not taking all your time. You want to protect your time. So when you first start working, you have to be someone else's leverage. So like you have to learn skills, you have to build your network, you have to build money and make money. And you need a job. So like jobs, I mean, we all start in a job because that's what the entrepreneurs need. They need workers too. So I would start in a job. That's how I did start. I wanted cash flow money and I needed mentorship and skills and a job will do that. So I think it's the best place to start. And I do see a lot of people trying to avoid that. And that's when they get wrecked. That's when they have they're broke all the time. They just can't find a job. Like they're just trying to be entrepreneurs too quick. So you get your job, you build your skills, you build your network, you build your cash, you solidify yourself in the industry, you build connections, and then you'll feel it in your stomach when it's time to go. You'll realize that you've maxed out the opportunity there at work. You'll feel like you're running the place, and you'll also feel like you're at loggerheads with the owner, or potentially, or they take a tack you don't agree with. Something will happen where you realize the opportunity is maxed out. And then you'll look for something else. Now, you can take 2 choices at that point. You either go get another job with a bigger vision, with a bigger team, or you start your own business. That's what happens. So you do end up, kind of maxing out the opportunity. So be aware of that. And people often ask, when's the best time to leave? And here's the answer. Very simple answer. You leave the job when it's costing you money to stay. Are entrepreneurs born or made? Well, if you gave any child, well, that's not true either. I mean, it's very difficult. Nurture versus nature. Who knows? But I do know this. It's either in you or it's not. So perhaps it's actually a nature thing. I think you have to be born with a desire to be entrepreneurial. So you may not be an entrepreneur, but you'll be entrepreneurial, which are the foundational parts of being an entrepreneur. So here's an example. When I was a kid, I used to love getting stuff from my house and selling it on the street. I started a car wash business when I was 11. And so there's some signs and examples of entrepreneurial habits, and it's an itch that you got to scratch. And so that's why I felt misaligned in my job, because I had this entrepreneurial itch I needed to scratch. So if you've got that in you, I think you need to cultivate it. Otherwise, you'll be unhappy. So probably born with it. If someone feels like they like their 9 to 5 and they have no entrepreneurial itch to scratch, that means they don't want an entrepreneur. Like, not everyone can be an entrepreneur. So it's fine. And you don't have to be. Like, totally fine. I've got friends of mine I went to school with. They're like way up the chain in like Rio Tinto and these big mining companies. They'll probably be CEO one day, and that's great. I mean, horses for courses, just as long as you're happy. Is entrepreneurship the only way to become rich? No. You could have a great paying job, you could set aside cash, invest it, and by the age of 45 or 50, if you do all the right things, you can leave your job and be set up, and you can be time rich and rich. You can. So it's not the only way. But if you want freedom sooner than 45 or 50 or 55, obviously, then yes, entrepreneurship is the fastest route to financial independence quickly. Go check out the book. It's a great place to start. And let me know how you're going, all right? So leave us a comment below. What do you think about this? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Whatever it is you want to talk about, pop it in the comments below, because I come and reply to every single comment personally, all right? So thanks for tuning in. Hit the sub button. See you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to Money Grows on Trees. If you enjoyed the episode, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and subscribe to us on YouTube so you never miss an episode. And if you're serious about building wealth, make sure to check out the links in the show notes and follow me on all social media platforms at Lloyd James Ross for more. See you in the next episode.